In today's video, I show you Car Wars 6th edition from Steve Jackson Games. But before we get into today's video, I want to give a quick shout out to all of my lovely Patreon supporters. I love you all so much because you make this channel what it is. I want to share with you this past month's GGGGs. Each month, Bob the Beholder picks some of my Patreon supporters to receive gratitude gifts. And for this past month of August of 2024, Jeremy W. and Tron 2600 is receiving a pledge for the Lava Burst Kickstarter. John C. is receiving a pledge for the Flatline City Wave 3 Kickstarter. Randy B. is receiving the Funk Recall UV Light Curing Putty. Timothy B. is receiving the Tanaris Silver Dragon Miniature. Brian V. is receiving $100 to go towards the Rapid Fire Dice Box Kickstarter. Thanks to all of my Patreon supporters. If Bob didn't pick you this past month, maybe he will this current month. And use the link below to go to my Patreon page where you can find out about this month's GGGGs. So if you haven't watched, go ahead and check out my Gen Con report video where I did talk about Car Wars, and a number of you did say that you did want a review of this game, so here is the video. I am going to start off with just a super high level overview because there's actually some really good tutorial videos on how to play this game. My favorite one, check it out here. But again, let's just start off with a super high level overview so you know a little bit about how the game plays. Alright, so this is how I repackaged my box. I kept this, the miniatures box in here, but I use it for the rule book and all of these. And then look at how much space I'm saving with these 3D printed inserts. So this holds all the dice, and it actually can be a dice tray. These ones I pulled off of the internet. Again, links in the descriptions below. But this is where I keep the dashboards. Only 4 of these can fit, so if you get more, I would just stick all the extras in this box, but this is enough to hold all of the cards from the base set and 4 sets of all of the tokens that you need. And then this is for all of your chits. And then I actually filled out this bottom part because the files that came with this set that I found online didn't have these spaces in here. So the spaces that I created is this piece right here, so that it completely fills out this middle, as well as this piece here. So these are the 2 that I custom made. And again, you can pull those out, and I stick the measuring rulers or movement rulers in here. And then this holds all of the cards. And then again, it holds only 4 sets, but if you don't sleeve your cards, I think you could squeeze in a couple more from expansions. This holds all of the bases as well as the terrain. And then finally, these are for all of the miniatures, the different cars. So I printed out 3 of these. And in actuality, if you get an expansion, 2 of these will actually fit some of the cars in here, but you put them in sideways, so you can slip them in like this. So again, I built this so that if you bought like the orange and purple expansion, you're able to fit everything in one box still. So that's the idea behind it all. So after you pick your car, you go ahead and stick it on your base. And really the size of the car has no matter in the game because it's really this base that you're working with. You're not really able to stick Matchbox cars on here, so if you've made your own cars for like Gaslands, it's not like, I mean, I guess you could figure out a way to stick them on here temporarily, but it really is, all that matters is this base. And the color corresponds with the color of the dashboard, so that's why all of these are different colors. And then what you want to do is you grab your dashboard and you have one for your tires, which is over here. One for your power, you slip on here. You start at 10 for both of those. Then you stick one of these armor things on each of the sides. and that depends on how much starting armor you have. These are double-sided because if that side catches on fire, you flip it over to signify that it's on fire. And then finally, your speed marker goes in here, dictating how much speed you have on this slot, and that'll affect how many control tokens that you get. What's super cool about this dashboard is as you lose your tires, you're going to lose the number of control tokens you get at the beginning of each turn, as well as your speed. So the faster you go, the less tokens you're going to get, and that just signifies that it's harder to control your vehicle. So I think that's a super cool mechanic. Now what's super cool about this is that you definitely can make your own, kit out your own cars using these cards that are here. But if you're just getting started, I recommend go ahead and grabbing this pre-made car for you, and it basically repeats all the cards that are available but sets it out like this. So this makes it super easy to jump into the game, because after you play a game or two, you'll figure out what kind of different things that you want on your car to kit it out differently. So this is just super helpful. I'm glad you get a good variety of the cars as well, because these are double-sided. And what you do is after you pick which car you want, you can go ahead and overlay it right on top like this. So I think that's awesome that they did that. They simplified the whole process. But again, once you figure out how the game plays, I do think it is more fun to kit out your own car, and you just spend the points that are available, and that's how you even out what all the cars have, is you have point limits. So this handy dandy reference card that each player has shows you what to do. So at the beginning, you check your speed, and you can reduce or increase your speed if you want. You take control, so based off of the number of the control tokens that are visible, that's how many you take. You can set out fires if you want by paying 2 control tokens. Oh, no, this is where you adjust your speed. And then you move your car, and then after you move your car, you can enter into the round of combat, and then the end of the round stuff that happens. Pretty much movement is super easy. So based off of your speed is how many lengths that you can go. So let's say my car is speed 4 or speed 3. I can basically go from here to here and move up, and that will be 1 movement. And then I'll do that again for 2 movement, and then finally 3 movement, right? But what's great about this tool is it controls how much of a turn that you make, and if you cover up any of these dice. So for example, if I turn this much, I would have to roll a yellow here and an extra green. The slight is a free sort of slight turn, but obviously if you go all the way here and almost do a 90-degree turn, then you're going to have to roll all these dice and the number of yellow dice based off of your speed. So since I was moving 3, I would be rolling not 3 yellow dice, but adding this one, that would be 4 yellow dice and 1 green die. And the more dice you roll, the more of a chance that you will have these sliding or slippery faces come up. And for each one of these, you have to spend a control token, or else you're going to spin out of control. These are the same dice that you use to attack. So you want to get these stars. That's the number of damage that you're going to do. There are bonuses to your defense based off of, in terms of rerolls, based off of how many of these lengths, these measuring lengths that you are away when you're shooting them. And then obviously you have different amounts of armor on each side of your card that goes down over time. There are collision rolls, things that happen when you crash into stuff, maneuvering, and all that other kinds of stuff. But that's a really super quick high-level overview of how the game works. Like I mentioned, that's just super brief. I didn't even give an example of shooting, but hopefully that gives you a sense of the amount of detail and depth that is involved in this game. And now I'm going to go ahead and share my thoughts and review about Car Wars. So I did actually buy the first edition book of Gaslands, and I never ended up playing it, even though it looked super interesting. A lot of my friends were playing it, and now they have Gaslands Refueled, which is basically the second edition of Gaslands. And I know a ton of people who played that game and really love it. And I thought that I would like taking Matchbox cars, 3D printing out some weapons and armor to be able to put on them, but I never really got around to it. And at the end of the day, I think if there was sort of pre-made miniatures that I could just paint up, then I would have gotten into Gaslands. When Car Wars 6th edition came out, actually at Gen Con, I think 2 Gen Cons ago, I actually demoed the game and I liked it, but it was actually pretty expensive at the time because the Kickstarter was fulfilling and I didn't want to spend all of that money to get into the game. But after everything was fulfilled, I did find this base box on sale on Amazon, of course, without all of the add-ons that Kickstarter backers received. But it was plenty of gameplay opportunity in the base box, so I thought it was a good deal. I went ahead and pulled the trigger. And I always said if I don't like the gameplay, I can always use these miniatures for Gaslands. So that was my rationale behind why I ended up picking up Car Wars. Was it's relatively affordable. You get a pretty good deal in this base box. You're getting 12 different miniatures, which is amazing, along with all of the pieces that you need to play the game. And that's a little bit different from Gaslands, and why I think I never really ended up playing even a sample game of that is because this comes in the box, everything that you need. And I really, really like this dashboard a lot, and how it keeps track of all of your armor, how it really keeps track of the faster you go or the less tires that you have, the less control you have. So thematically, it makes a ton of sense. I think this movement ruler is really intuitive and easy to use. So all of those things sort of combined to make this a fully packaged game in a box versus Gaslands, where you have to go out and mod your own vehicles and things like that. So because of that, I think I was able to just purchase this and get into the game right away with everything that I needed. Just a technical criticism is that this box is way bigger than it needs to be. I mean, I threw away all of the packaging and all that kind of stuff because it's relatively unnecessary, but it does fit in my Calyx shelf, so that's a bonus. And as you can see, you're able to add some expansions if you want to. I will say, I really wish that they had come out with more than just 4 dashboards, because the limiting factor in the number of players that you can have is the number of dashboards. It actually isn't the cars, because obviously you have 12 cars, but with the dashboards, you can only play 4 of them at a time. And these bases as well, there's only 4 in the base game. So my intention was, I did pre-order the purple and orange expansion because that was going to give me 2 more dashboards, couple more cars, although I wasn't as much interested in the cars as I was the dashboard, so that my gaming group, which is 6 people, all 6 of us could play at once. I did look online to see if anyone created a 3D printable version of this dashboard, which isn't the case. I couldn't find anything like that. But really, that's the only gripe that I have out of this game is that the limiting factor really is this dashboard, not actually the miniatures, because there's tons of miniatures. And also, I know Steve Jackson made the STL files for all of these available if you wanted to go ahead and 3D print. And I really considered purchasing those STL files until I realized, wait, I already have most of the cars. In fact, I have more cars than I will probably ever need, because there's just a ton of variety here. So I ended up not purchasing those STL files, because just the variety in the base game is plenty. And I will say, painting up these miniatures was super fun and relatively quick and easy to do. Mostly spray painted, everything primed it with black spray primer, and then just painted over it. And I actually had a lot of fun painting it all different colors and things like that. For the most part, I followed what was on the pre-made car posters. There's different varieties and colors that are found, but tried to follow the color scheme for most of them that way, with possibly the exception of this one where I wanted to use Turbo Dork's color shifting paint on this one. But again, super fun to paint up and super fun to be able to get this on the table right away. Sorry that I can't give a direct comparison with Gaslands, because I never did end up playing Gaslands, but I did see online a couple of people saying that Gaslands might be a little bit more simpler to play and shorter of a game. It's a little bit more chaotic and crazy things happen. Whereas Car Wars does stick to being a driving simulation. So the original Car Wars, this is a 6th edition. The very original one came out in like the 70s, and they had these little cardboard chits on the ground, you know, and it was relatively complicated game like a lot of the games were back then. Some of my friends actually played it, the first edition when it came out. I really never got into it because similarly to BattleTech, I just thought that there was too many rules and it was just not very streamlined. 6th edition, whether you like it or not or are a fan of the 1st edition or all the way up to 5th edition, 6th edition is a huge departure from the original games, and some purists really don't like that, don't really like how simplified Car Wars 6th edition is compared to the other ones. I like it. I prefer the streamlined rule set, but my guess is the rules for this game is still more complicated than probably for Gaslands. If you played both of these games, Gaslands and Car Wars, please make a comment below. Either confirmed my suspicion about whether or not that's true, but that is my guess. And when the couple of times that I've played so far, it has been 4-player. Those games have gone on pretty long, 2.5, 3 hours with 4 players. So it's not a super quick game. I think Gaslands is a much quicker game than Car Wars because it doesn't get into all the details that Car Wars does. So for example, even at the lowest point cost game that we typically play, which if I remember correctly is 16 points, but I might be making that up in my head. But even there, it takes a while to burn through all of your armor. And then once you get through the armor, then you start damaging your weapons and all of that kinds of stuff. So it takes a while to take out a car. Some people might not like that. I actually like it because for the most part, you remain in the game for quite a while unless everyone gangs up on you and takes you out really, really quickly. But for the most part, most folks didn't get knocked out of the game until, towards the end of our playtime anyway. And I do like the fact that even though they have the pre-made versions, which makes for quick gameplay, and usually I don't like, army building with my war games that much or the level of detail that you can get into, I actually enjoy the amount of customization that you can do with Car Wars, with these individual cards, because again, once you figure out what all of the pieces and equipment does, then you do think about, man, I really want to kit out my car with, flamethrowers or a weapon that will take out the enemy's tires or all that kinds of stuff. You start thinking about that and you weigh down, man, should I put on some armor or not? Will I be a glass cannon? And even your gunner and your driver, like they are making attacks as well, and they have bonuses to their roles. So that is pretty interesting where you have enough choice and variety, but not so much that you're overwhelmed. So even the tutorial game that we played up in Gen Con with my friend group, everyone did end up creating their own cars even to learn the game. And again, it isn't so complicated that you can't do that right away. So I think that's fantastic that they have pre-made for those who don't want to build out their cars, but also the option for you to start really building out your cars. And I found it to be really enjoyable to do that. The rules are such too that if one person really knows the rules well, everyone else doesn't really need to know the rules that much, because after a while you pick it up pretty quickly. You do have to look up the rule book to figure out what are the collision rules again. I can never remember them quite right, but for the most part, the rules are intuitive. It's simple enough, and it works out great. You aren't knocked out right away, so your car actually lasts quite a bit. Your ability to move around on the field, and this mat was actually something that I received from them from Gen Con for free, which was amazing. So there's just a lot that I think you can do with this game. I did ask if they were going to come out with like trucks, buses, semis, motorcycles, helicopters. All of those are options actually in Gaslands, but they said that they don't have plans to come out with those different types of vehicles. And that's fine. I think it would be cool to put a semi out on the board, but I can live without that. I'd rather have a good rule set experience, and I think Car Wars does fit that bill. But I imagine if I were to play Gaslands, and I think eventually I will want to try out Gaslands, I probably would enjoy that game too, and being a little bit more chaotic and crazy and quick as a game. I think the 2.5, 3 hour gameplay of this is fine, because with my game group, we typically do play that long, maybe even longer on a game night. But I could see other game groups wanting to play sort of a quicker game that only lasts about half of that time. and I think Gaslands might fit that bill. Either way, the pure mayhem of being on a board, driving around, that's always super fun. That's the kind of scenario that you always dream of as a kid. Even when you're playing with Hot Wheels, you're imagining them shooting each other and being like Mad Max, all that kinds of stuff. So you definitely still get that feel of, trying to either ram other cars or shoot them down. I mean, you're just playing that in your head while you're playing this game. So super fun for me. So if you're interested in that kind of game, I do think Car Wars is the way to go. Again, you can buy this. Use my Amazon affiliate link to purchase this base box. I think it's a great deal that you can find online. Now they have come out with the expansions, so you can pick those up too as well. Those 2-player box expansions does come out with only 2 sets of dashboards, so if you're only going to play head-to-head with one other person, that's a little bit cheaper, but I feel like this is an awesome deal to get the 4-player pack right as is. Hit the like button and subscribe. I would love to hear your opinions or ideas because Car Wars and Gaslands has been out now for a couple of years. So again, if you've played both, I would love to hear what your opinion is down below. Happy gaming. We'll see you next time.